Hello, Sampro TV viewers. Today, we're going to make a deep dive into the world of Palantir, one of the most fascinating and widely followed tech companies in the world with a focus on software and data. I think we're lucky to have Ryan Taylor, who is Chief Revenue Officer. Stocks up 134%. And in the past 5 years, it has been an almost 20 bagger. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Ryan, so let's start with your personal journey. You joined the company 2010, so almost about 15 years ago. And that is actually 7 years after the company was established. So you were probably one of the first professionals to join the company, and you have a very impressive resume, technical background, computer science, and have a law degree. And what was the principal reason? I mean, I'm sure you had a lot of choices, right, after law school, but what was one of the reasons why you decided to join Palantir, which was probably back then quite a new name, right? And share with us, your experience with the company, how you have grown together with the firm.
Absolutely, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Honored to be here. Really honored to be part of this, and the feeling is mutual. As far as my involvement in Palantir, I joined in 2010, as you mentioned, so 15 years ago. At the time, Palantir was about 200 employees. Palantir was founded in 2003, but really spent the first 5-6 years just focused on building the product, and didn't start selling the product to customers until 2007, 2008. So when I joined, it was still very early in the journey.
Just trying to take
But we're
off.
still, I think we're always early in the journey because it's a long journey we're on. So I joined in 2010. We were 200 employees at the time. At the time I was working, so I went to Harvard Law School, and I was working at a law firm in Washington, D.C. And I came back to my college reunion at Stanford, and I ran into a bunch of people who started talking about this company, Palantir. And I saw energy, excitement on their faces, and there was something about like kind of the energy, and me kind of having, as you mentioned, I studied engineering before going to law school, and so really wanting to get back to something really innovative and impactful. And I saw that in the energy and the presence of the people at my reunion. One of my good friends from law school was the first lawyer at Palantir, and reached out, was looking to grow the team, reached out to me, and I immediately said, yes, when can I interview? I flew out, met a bunch of people, and out of that just left with like no question in my mind. At the time it was, as you said, kind of considered to be fairly risky bet, right? I was going from a very traditional Washington D.C. white shoe law firm to a startup company that you never know how that will go. But in my mind, there's no question. Just seeing the energy, the people, seeing what the mission that Palantir was focused on, it was extremely compelling to me. And I've felt that from day one of starting at Palantir, and I feel that today throughout as we've grown and scaled. That's been something that universally I've felt that, and has continued to drive my enthusiasm for being at Palantir.
So it looks like it was worth the risk taking 15 years ago.
Yeah, hindsight's always 20/20, but I even at the time I said, like, even if this, at the time you never know, but even if it didn't work out, the experience was so incredible, and the things I was learning, the people I was working with, I felt like even if it hadn't kind of panned out the way it has, which in some ways is beyond my wildest imagination, it still would have been worth the journey. So.
I mean, Chief Revenue Officer title, I mean, that may not be too familiar with some of the viewers here. Can you just explain a little bit about what's your responsibility, how it's connected with creating the value, creating the growth?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I actually started in a legal role. But at the time, and to this date, our legal team was always very much about how do we solve problems for the business and for our customers in a way that takes the law as a tool, and how is our legal team forward deployed with our customers. When I started in 2010, we were pretty much all government customers. Our commercial business, which has since grown tremendously, was just barely beginning at that time. And so I got involved in a lot of our earliest conversations with our commercial customers. And the conversation wasn't just like, oh, here's a contract. It was actually, how are we going to work together? How do we align our relationships with our customers to be a true partnership? How do we align the commercial terms in a way that incentivize us to have an impact and customers to be driven by that impact, and really helping to think about creating the synergies and the governance with our customers. So in the early days, I was involved in defining a lot of that relationship with our customers, and that really just evolved to me always having this kind of dual role of helping build out the commercial terms of how we work with our customers, how we structure our relationships with our customers, how we set up long-term, deep enterprise partnerships with our customers. And so my responsibility is really thinking about that, that surface area with our customers, and how do we really maximize and optimize on the impact we're having for our customers and align our incentives, and then overseeing the revenue growth of the company in the context of doing that.
I mean, it seems like, most companies claim that customer is king, right? They emphasize customer relationship, but according to your argument that the Palantir is a company that works really closely, collaborate with the customer. And how are the business typically run? What's the customer relationship like, and how do you make money in a very simple term?
Yeah, so I think it's really about a combination of first and foremost is the product that we're providing to our customers to deliver real impact with our customers. And then we have a forward deployed engineering model, which is our engineers working directly with customers to help them solve the problems.
On their side?
On their side, alongside them,
okay.
Working directly with our customers to help them solve their problems and teach them how to continue to use our software in ways that compound over time. And so that, that scales. And we start with really thinking about what are the kind of business problems that we're looking to solve for our customers that are most top of mind, be it either to drive revenue, save costs, increase efficiencies. And we are very much, it's software with a purpose, like purpose for an impact with our customer. And that really, we license our software to our customers, and really drive, multiples of value above that for our customers, and that's the commercial model. So.
For most of us who don't have a tech background, we vaguely know Palantir is a wonderful software company, but for us it's really difficult to really understand when you say products. What do you mean? So could you just give us a very simple example of solving very challenging problem, creating solutions for the company? So what is it?
Yeah, so I think you could take there's a range of different things we can do. So one, kind of in the insurance context, how do you take the underwriting process, which usually takes weeks of manual analysis and decision making? How do you take that and actually make it much more efficient to be able to do something that used to take 3 weeks to be able to do in 3 minutes, right?
Insurance deals with a lot of data.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really what it comes down to is ultimately is the ontology of an organization. The ontology being the data within an organization, and the representations of that data, but not just looking at that data in a static way, but actually looking at that data and the relationships between the different data sources, and then the actions that can be taken on that data. So thinking about it in the context of a supply chain context, right? So imagine that you're trying to fulfill you're trying to fulfill a supply chain request, right? And you have certain inventory. And so the first question is, looking at the world of my data now, do I have the inventory available in order to fulfill this requirement? And so then it's like, okay, let's look at the inventory. If I don't have the inventory, where else can I go to look for that? And what's the model of the different mechanisms available, the actions I can take in order to solve for that? And then on top of that, what are the costs and what are the different mechanisms and what decisions and actions can I make to fulfill that? So operational decision making on the data in the context of an organization to be able to be much more efficient and impactful in doing that. And then as you make those decisions, the world changes. It's not a static world, it's dynamic, and you're constantly iterating on that.
So that's the commercial side, and with the government of various countries, you've got a defense or government contract.
Absolutely. So we work with the U.S. government and its allies around the world, and it's we've been involved. Our initial founding was in the wake of 9/11. One of the very clear problems in the context of data was that there were a lot of different silos of data, but there was no ability to be able to understand, the same way I was describing the ontology, the interactions between the data, how it relates to each other, connections between the data. And so how do you model that and draw conclusions and make connections with that data? How do you operationalize that on a battlefield? And so that has been, really our founding purpose and mission.
It really boils down to the people and your mission, right? So
and the product, yeah.
Yeah, and the product. So can you talk a little bit about your people? How do you recruit people? Who do you look for? And when it comes to the Palantir's mission, what do you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, I kind of talked about when I first came to Palantir in 2010, and I was blown away by the thoughtfulness and caliber of the people I was talking to. The level of, there was a certain sort of commitment to delivering for our customers and having real impact. It wasn't about just getting people to click on an advertisement to drive money. It was like, how do we actually have real impact and solve real problems in the real world for our customers, be it government or commercial. And there was a sense of like deeper motivation and purpose in the conversations I was having with people. That people were choosing to come to Palantir because of the impact, right? Not just, I'm going to go to this job because I'll make money doing this or that. It's like, how do I actually have real impact in the world? How does Palantir connect with the world around it? And so there's already when you think about the people, right, there's already a filtering function of people choosing to come to Palantir for that, with that drive and with that motivation. And that in and of itself also is very much leads to there's something very transparent about like the truth, right? Of like, we're very motivated about helping our customers get to the truth and helping our customers get to real outcomes in the context of that. And we have very high standards, hiring people with a very high ceiling who can learn and grow with the organization. It's less about people who have like a ton of experience doing something similar, but instead people who have a really high ceiling, who want to learn, who are willing to adapt and iterate and constantly evolve. And then you combine that mentality with that level of the engineering capacity with the mission of why people are motivated and chose to come here, with the product that has been developed in a forward deployed way, with our engineers continuing to improve the product based on things that we're learning about in the real world. And those all coming together really make us unique and special.
I'm sure you have a very high quality people from different background, and you told us that solving one of the most challenging problems for your customers. So I'm sure there's a lot of teamwork involved and collaboration within your firm, but also with the customers are very important. So can you talk a little bit about, because I think today we want to learn more about your company, the culture, the people, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think we're a very flat structure where people who come to Palantir and are, find a problem to help solve can have meaningful impact within just a few months, right? And so like we're very trusting of we believe we hire very talented people. We believe they have the best product to make those people effective in the real world, and we empower those people to be able to have that impact, right? And so that means we're not hiring for. We don't think about hiring for a role. We think about who's the right person in the right spot at the right time to help solve this problem for the customer, and how do we then learn from some of the most some of the most impactful things we've done from a product perspective have been someone who just started, who was like, hey, if we could do this in the platform, it would be that much more effective for customers. Then that gets integrated to make the platform, the software platform, that much stronger. And so we're very much a culture of sharing the technical challenges that we face with each other, helping to respond to and adapt to those technical challenges. And I think you bring together people who have been here a very long time and people who are just starting, all of whom have very high ceilings and are looking to learn and grow and driven by the mission, working alongside each other and learning from each other in the context of this platform that's been developed over 20 years. And then doing the same thing with our customers, right? So working alongside our customers in the field to be able to help bring them onto the same, we think about, like when we're working on a customer, we think about our employees are on the same team as our customers. We're all working together to try to solve the problem. And that's both an internal and an external approach.
So in a way, it's like management consulting, right? You go to the company's side and make an observation and provide solution.
So I would disagree with that.
Okay.
Because I view what we are doing is we're taking we're not creating just a PowerPoint and say, go do this. We're actually taking software capabilities, operationalizing them inside an environment and allowing the people who are the business decision maker the decision maker within an organization to leverage their context and knowledge to actually do the thing, right? So we're allowing them to actually make the decisions in real time and have the impact, right? And so it's one thing to say a PowerPoint, like, oh, if you restructure your organization, you could do X, Y, or Z. And another thing to say, I'm giving you the tools to test out your assumptions, to make decisions quickly, to test out different scenarios, and then pivot if it doesn't work, and keep doing that and iterating. It's a very iterative process.
I know what you're saying. I know I have a lot of consulting friends, and they produce mixed results. So I teach.
No comment.
I teach financial analysis and corporate governance. And I always, when I look at the company, I always look at the leadership, the quality, how they make decisions. And then when I look at Palantir, you have 4 founders, right? All of them are very excellent individuals, pretty amazing people. But also there's a lot of homogeneous aspects among these 4 founders, the school they went to, their background. So I think first we want to know more about your CEO, Alex Karp. I mean, he's got a very interesting background. JD from Stanford, I think that's where he met Peter Thiel.
Yes.
Peter Thiel also has a wide following in Korea. But he went to Germany to get a doctoral degree in social theory, is that right?
In philosophy.
Yeah, philosophy. So and I watched him give a talk at the YouTube. Very inspirational leader.
Yeah.
So tell us about his leadership style. And we normally expect very successful tech company to be run by with some technical background, but what might seem very unique and different?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I've worked with him for 15 years, and a lot of my work has been going directly to customers with him, alongside him. And I think one of the things that I've grown and learned a lot from working alongside Alex. And I think one of the things that it always strikes me is he's not thinking about like, how do we maximize the near term, or how do we have maximize in this moment? He's always thinking about like, how are we thinking about this from a long-term perspective?
Long-term, yeah.
And what does that mean? That means for our customers, we're not just thinking about like, oh, this specific thing or this specific problem, or that it's like, how are we thinking about actually how to set up a trusting relationship with our customers that creates a long-term partnership that grows over time in depth, right? And so, there are a lot of software companies that are very transactional, that are selling a lot of small deals to a wide range of customers. And we're really about how do we partner with our customers in a way. We'd much rather have less customers that we go really deep with than more customers that we're very shallow with. And that really comes from like thinking about the long-term relationship and what that looks like. And he has instincts on that like blow me away every day. And so there have been so many moments where I've been in a, kind of come out of an interaction, go to seek guidance from him, and kind of get his thoughts, and he's like, here's what we should do. And in the moment, I'm like, that seems crazy. What are you talking? Like, why would we do that? And then like a year later, I'm like, wait a minute, he was right. He was right when he said that. And there's like an instinct of how he thinks about how different follow-on effects happen that are like, that I've seen in no one else. He also is very much about. He's very focused on the culture of Palantir and the culture of the people, and how do we empower them? How do we not become, a hierarchical structure where we're just hiring someone for a role, but instead, how do we think about in any given moment, who are the right people in order to operate on this? It's more thinking about like as if we're like special forces, and each mission has its own optimization, and he's very involved in thinking about that. And he doesn't have. He doesn't have an engineering background per se, but if he understands our product better than anyone. So, so.
Peter Thiel, his book became a bestseller in Korea. We have a wide following in Korea, and I when I look at your board, he still sits on the board, right? So
he's the chairman of the board. Yeah.
Oh, he's the chairman of the board. So. I'm sure he still gets quite deeply involved in terms of the strategy and long-term vision. So can we know a little bit about how he interacts and is involved in the overall process, even though I'm sure as a board chairman, he doesn't get involved into day-to-day business, right?
Yeah, so, it's Alex always tells the story of him and Peter in law school, where they would stay up, debate, like both,
they were classmates?
They were classmates, and they're both obviously extremely intellectual, and incredibly smart. And they would stay up debating, and they have very different views on a lot of things in the world, and they would stay up debating late at night over different topics. And I think that debate really, you see that sense of like, let's debate over what the right approach is, like manifest itself in Palantir, in the sense of like, there's always discussion about what's the right approach, and there's always room to push back or think about different things and have a dialogue. And we very much encourage that dialogue, that conversation, that debate. And in the context of Peter's involvement now, I attend our board meetings. You see him very much pressure testing. Well, what about this? What about that? Have you thought about that? And like that pressure testing and that debate and
about
challenging things oftentimes leads to whole new insights that we hadn't thought about, and it's incredibly impactful on the company.
So board is very live and a lot of discussion happening.
Yes, absolutely.
That's good.
So,
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good stuff, and wish you good luck and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.